I'm going to be honest. I had Kingdom Come Deliverance in my Steam library for years now and never actually got to it until the sequel came out and people praised it to the high heavens. And what a mistake was to wait on this treasure of a game. Kingdom Come Deliverance brought us into a gritty, realistic depiction of medieval Bohemia in the shoes of a simple peasant named Henry. With the gameplay feel like Skyrim, we were thrust into a world where everything was literally our oyster. The amount of tools that Warhorse Studios gave us to play around with in the world was seriously well planned and developed. From the amazing combat which required so many different things from you to succeed. Your skill in blocking and parrying was paramount, as well as the strategy aspect of utilizing the space around you while literally fighting a mob of bandits, all the while trying to keep your stamina from bottoming out. Even a mastery aspect of literally remembering all the combos at your disposal for your weapon of choice. Then you have your other skills. Thievery, sneaking, herbalism, survival, just name a few, all require you to actually do the skill to level it like you were playing some first-person RuneScape game, which would honestly be really fun. All that surrounded by a breathtaking journey through the political intricate mechanisms of medieval Bohemia, where you get a chance to live and to learn what it was like to be a peasant in those times, climbing your way up from the bottom to eventually working closely with the nobility. The amazing twists and turns that they laced into the story for you to experience was always a pleasure for me, and the delivery of every cutscene and action piece was always exciting. The story pulls you into Henry's world, making every highs and lows hit just as hard as he feels it. This was a fantastic game with so much freedom in the choices you make, as well as the amount of ways you can attempt missions and quests. So of course, right after I finished Assassin's Creed Shadows, I finally got a chance to boot up Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and literally spent every free moment neglecting my poor wife to roleplay as an honorable, dishonorable knight in Trotsky and Gutenberg, trying to stop a civil war while lining my pockets at the same time. And after finally finishing the game with 89 hours clocked, I can finally share my thoughts. Did I need to do every side missions in both of the maps to do this review? Nah. And I usually don't do everything in every game that I make a video for, mainly because I don't have that much time. But with this game, I felt compelled to do everything. I rushed the first game because I was stuck in a production schedule for my videos. But because it was so good, I regretted not finishing all the side content of the first game. So I promised myself that I would take my time with the sequel and experience everything Warhorse Studios wanted me to experience. And I'm sorry to my wife, but even after dumping 90 hours into the game, I would do it all over again the same way if I had the chance.
You know the trouble with an adventurous life, son? It can end before it gets started.
Look out! You have to fight till the bitter end, with all the strength you can muster.
Hans! Hans, don't worry, I'll fix it!
So, on the topic of the story, I'll try my best not to spoil anything for you guys. But to get to the main point of it, I have to say, this is probably one of the best stories I've ever experienced in any form of media. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 continues the story from where the first game left off, with Henry and Hans delivering a message to the Royal Chamberlain von Berghoff. In the usual Kingdom Come Deliverance fashion, everything goes to shit pretty much immediately, with our small band of companions being wiped out by bandits while Henry and Hans are in their boxers trying to escape across the lake. This was a pretty creative way to bump Henry back to level 1, allowing the players to experience a leveling progression once again with an actual lore reason instead of just forcing us to be level 1, pretending like we didn't max Henry's skills in the first game. So beaten, battered, and bruised, with nothing to our name but a pair of stolen clothes looking like a pair of hobos, Henry and Hans take the long trek to Trotsky Castle only to be showered in human waste and turned away like literal beggars. Then a brawl happens, and after spending a night in the stockade, Hans gets fed up with Henry, and this is where the game finally lets you free. Now, this whole introductory portion of the game was very good. They reintroduced us to our characters and reminded us to who we were, why we were here. The rest of the story was just as good, or even better, than what we experienced in the first game. There were so many twists and turns and surprises and shocking moments that I had to take a pause after every event to digest what had just happened. Henry is forced into a position this time around that can alter the fate of all the characters in the game. You can say that your decisions actually do matter because people can and will die because of you, and you'll feel this effect ripple down throughout the rest of the game. I know it's probably a good idea to list some examples here, but I hesitate to mention anything because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. So just trust me on this one and understand that your choices do matter. Now, character development. A lot of characters as well as Henry will find a lot of growth this time around. One particular person is Hans, the stuck-up young noble lord who wants to prove his worth all the while enjoying the pleasures of debauchery. You follow him on his journey through the two regions, and with the amount of things you guys get into, you will find both Henry and Hans visibly maturing by the end of the journey. It's even easier to connect with these characters because of the amazing work done by the acting team. You can see and hear the emotions of these characters, which further immerses you into the drama that's being portrayed. Every look, every action, every movement had a place. You can see the personalities of each and every character, whether they were pompous, reserved, or outright insane. Also, the amount of languages and accents that were in this game was fantastic.
Wybacz I pozwól mi jeszcze tylko raz wykastrować tych bezbożnych skurwysynów!
What? Well, for a moment I had you pegged for a new yakka for the mound.
Who? For a what?
Hold your water, bunny lad. We're in need of a cout here, I'll read. There'll be a howfin' fire in it for you.
What do you want me to do?
A cout, lad. A strong bloke. I can see you're not for here. We have a bit of fash we need a hand with.
I see. I mean, I actually don't. I'm not a miner.
Again, you will be immersed into this world as if you were in Bohemia. I do have one bit of news that I do find disappointing and content with as well. One of the developers of the games had an interview with a Czech channel, and in it they mentioned that this game will end Henry's story. Of course, I was extremely sad to see that this will be the last adventure we'll have with Henry, but after experiencing the end of the game, I felt like the story was concluded sufficiently. Of course, there was enough story stuff there that could have extended the game all the way to at least a third or fourth game, but I think if they want to end his adventure here, then this is a good enough place as any. Every accomplishment felt earned, and I felt satisfied with what I experienced. Now, nothing's set in stone yet. We don't know if they'll actually send Henry off on his way to work on another project, but that's a topic for later. Just know that you will enjoy the story and storytelling of this game.
Paul!
What the fuck?
Damn. There's more of them than I was expecting.
We can't back out now. Let's blast at them and seize the advantage.
Oi! You two! Get that wreck off the road!
Not to worry, Honorable Sir. We're working on it. To the task!
Matilda! Fucking hell! My leg, damn it! You idiots!
Combat this time around had some adjustments, and I'm still on the fence as to whether the changes were good or not. The first change is the reduction of directional positions that you could exploit. From the 5 directions and a stab that was changed to 4 directions for swords and 3 for the other weapons. Then we have Master Strike, which originally required a perfectly timed block to initiate, but the window to hit that sweet spot gets harder the higher your opponent's weapon skill is compared to yours. Now it's been changed, requiring you to be in the opposite stance from your opponent and attacking them instead of blocking during that window that they attack. I definitely had a lot of fun with this particular change. But the problem with Master Strike was that it was too strong, and I felt like it trivialized a lot of fights, ending too many duels too quickly, which usually ruined any high points in the story, where Henry faces off against an opponent that's been built up to be completely threatening. I should note that Master Strike was supposed to be available for both sword and unarmed combat, But there was a lot of bugs apparently whenever a player would master strike while unarmed, which broke a lot of quests. So on release, Warhorse had to turn it off for us until they fixed it, which still hasn't been fixed by the way. This wouldn't bother me really except for the fact that NPCs still had access to Master Strike, which made the fight clubs all the more harder to deal with since they could literally counter your attacks and attempts to combo them. The only options you have to deal with this is to either kick them or hit them in the same side of their stance, which they can easily block. You can try to dodge their hits and attack them that way, but you'll more than likely still get Master Striked with higher level opponents. You can also clinch them, and well, if you have some of the perks that buff clinching, you can pretty much be a powerhouse. So yes, kicking and clinching were the only options I went for, which made for a pretty underwhelming pugilist tournament. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is the change to NPCs. You will now find that they block a hell of a lot more this time around. I think Warhorse wanted to better emulate how combat was back in the 1400s, where duelists would trade blows and block attacks more often. So this definitely was reflected in the game, where you and your opponent trade attacks and perfect block until one of you messes up or runs out of stamina. Rounding up the positives of combat, I do love the change to Master Strike, and I do appreciate the reduced directions that you need to target, making things easier to manage, like how you'll counter your opponent. The NPCs being more proactive in blocking and trading blows made combat more active, which was a welcome change. Now the downside to these changes, with NPCs being able to block more, having the ability to Master Strike, and having reduced directions to target, makes it harder to do combos. Back in the first game, I used to remember all the combos and had a great time doing them as often as I could, but this time around I find it pointless to even try for a combo because Master Strike is too powerful. Why risk having the enemy Master Strike you in the middle of your combo, rendering it useless when you could just play it safe and Master Strike them instead? This was also bad because I found myself never using any other weapon but a longsword, so I'm not even sure if the heavy weapons are fun or not. Longsword was my answer to literally every situation, even if the enemy was in plate armor. I did enjoy the changes to combat, but also found some glaring issues with it. And I hope if they make another game for Henry that they adjust it some more to make combos more useful again, at least. The skills in Kingdom Come Deliverance you'll find are probably one of the most well thought out and developed mechanics in video game. Skills come with a special little mini game to them that you get to master on top of the wonderful perks that you can unlock by leveling the skill. There came a new activity called blacksmithing that wasn't in the first game that allowed Henry to follow in the footsteps of his dad, letting you craft horseshoes, nails, and of course weapons. Sadly, we don't get to make any armor, which is disappointing, but it did make sense since his dad was a swordsmith and not an armorer. The mini game itself was interesting. You start by heating up a piece of metal to a certain limit, and then you hammer it with as much strength and rhythm as you can while avoiding the same spot to evenly craft the piece you're making. I like the little tune he whistles whenever you get a good rhythm down, which is another indicator of you doing a good job.
See the sparks?
Making
That's the
things
sign
other
of a
than
good
swords, though, is a pain in the ass. Swords have you move the piece in one direction, with the hammer following a line like it was on a train track. Whereas horseshoes and axes gave you free movement to aim wherever you want, which made it harder to perfectly target the area next to the previous hit. I'm sure they could have made the other pieces follow a rail system as well, but they kind of just left it up to your actual dexterity, hoping you can get better enough to not totally whiff your hit. Moving on, thieving and sneaking is pretty much what you would expect. I spent most of my time roaming the villages, unlocking all the doors and chests that I could, lining my pockets with anything and everything I got my mitts on. I do realize that this skill pretty much trivializes the game because you can literally get free access to anything you could ever want without really working hard for it. I never really got caught, and if a guard did want to search me, I would usually just put on my most charismatic suit and persuade them away.
There's no point resisting. You will be justly...
Wait, no! You're wrong! Do you mean to tell me that a man has no right to protect his honor? I was insulted. And in a country that honours God, to protect oneself from offence is a divine right. But I reckon none of that applies here. How shameful.
Hold on now. We're all decent folk here. If your deeds were truly committed in defence of your honour, then we'll leave things be for now.
I don't think the detriments and punishments for doing crimes were all that severe. For thieving, they usually make you pay a fine. For bigger crimes, you'd be put in a stockade, which wasn't really a problem because you could just sleep off the debuffs. The only really big punishment was being branded for murder.
Executioner, carry out the sentence.
Which is also noted by a debuff. So again, if you wait for the debuff to go away, you won't get executed for murdering people a second time. So I do think they should increase the punishment system just to make your actions have a real reaction in the game instead of us just sleeping our problems away. With all the skills available in the game, I never actually utilized maybe 2 of them, alchemy and survival. I didn't enjoy the minigame for alchemy all that much. It was too involved and took too long for my liking. That does not mean I want it changed. I know there are people who love this mechanic and I want it to be left as is for the people who enjoy it. It didn't affect me negatively at all for skipping this skill because I could just get the potions I needed from an alchemist and I could just read books to level it up for the speech checks that we get. Same with survival. I never felt like collecting herbs, hunting, or doing that sort of stuff. That is to say that there is a lot of content in this game for everyone. People like different things and there will be folks who enjoy alchemy and survival skills like hunting. I do think these mechanics are well made and thought out, except for picking herbs. Get rid of the herb picking cutscene. It's really jarring. It just gets annoying when you're trying to pick a ton of herbs. We don't need it. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a big game. They give you 2 large areas to explore, and by large, I mean really large, with villages peppered throughout the areas, some with their own side quests and tasks to complete. There will be moments when you're walking across the country, and then there will be nothing happening or going on. No real surprises were hidden out there, well, none that I found at all, so maybe they were hidden too well. You do get interactions with wayfarers here and there, which I did find some to be particularly interesting.
I'm Sir Yezek of Holohlavia.
And I'm Henry.
Well, Henry, I'm terribly sorry, but this is an ambush.
What?
Please don't make it harder for me than it already is, and surrender nicely.
Are you yanking my pizzle?
Unfortunately not.
I do think this game could have used some more life in between the villages, but it wasn't a detriment to my enjoyment of the game at all, since I could just speed my way through to the location on my horse. Just know you will find a lot of nothing as you journey through the land, but when you do find life and interaction, you'll find that a lot of them are very well developed with some side characters who are just as interesting and crazy as the main cast.
I want to make a golem out of dough. Then, using secret alchemical practices and theurgy, bring him to life.
A golem, you say? Isn't that a kind of pie? What are you going to do with a living pie?
So this was my experience with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. The story kept me hooked from start to finish. It was immersive, well-paced, and full of compelling moments that made every quest feel important. The combat, while still fun, could use some balancing. Master Strike felt too powerful at times, and combos didn't seem as necessary as they used to be. Still, the overall system remained engaging, keeping the intensity of every encounter intact. Skills retained the classic first-person RPG feel, reminding me of the depth you'd expect from a game like RuneScape. There's so much to level up, and the sense of progression is satisfying whether you're mastering a weapon or perfecting your thieving techniques. The world itself, though still somewhat empty, is visually striking. Trotsky, Gutenberg, and the surrounding areas are full of breathtaking vistas that reinforce the sense of place and time. The immersion is right up there with other AAA titles, making every village, battlefield, and forest feel alive. I have to admit, the thought of this being Henry's last adventure is a bitter, sweet pill to swallow. It's disappointing because I've grown to really enjoy his journey, but it also opens the door to new possibilities. What's next for Warhorse Studios? A Viking setting? A Crusade theme? Either would be a fantastic choice, offering fresh narratives while keeping the same commitment to realism and grounded storytelling. Warhorse has proven themselves to be a developer worth watching. It's been a long time since Valerian that I felt this level of trust in the studio to deliver a captivating experience. They've managed to carve out their own niche, taking risks and refining mechanics rather than just playing it safe. It's that ambition that has catapulted them into the conversation alongside some of the best in the industry. So putting everything into consideration, this is easily one of the standout games of 2025. It's a title that deserves to be in the Game of the Year conversation. The narrative impact, the strategic combat, the skill progression, it all comes together to create a gaming experience that's just fun. It's a testament to what can happen when a developer is willing to stay true to its vision while still pushing the boundaries. And if this is the end of Henry's story, then he's definitely going out on a high note. Whether you're a fan of medieval RPGs, a newcomer to the series, or just someone looking for a game that respects your choices and challenges you to think, then Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is absolutely worth your time.
Definitely not going to sing those words, right?
Which words?
You know exactly
I'm
the
just
words.
joking. Right, you ready?
Can't tune the strings.
You've got one job. Good? Right.
When it seems you're out of luck,
There's just one man who gives a fuck.
a friend who'll never leave you stuck. Now who can that friend be?
Well,
Ludiek?
Henry, our hero Henry, the fellow who helps his fellow man. Henry, reliable Henry, he gets the job done the best he can. Oh, oh, oh. Watch out,
Watch out, here we go.
oh, oh. I can't hear you in the back.
When you want to string your lute and drum it with your bag drum.
Who will pull a sheep gut out through the creatures who wrecked home? Oh, Henry, we thank you, Henry, the fellow who helps his fellow man.
His fellow man.
Henry, let's drink to Henry. He gets the job done the best he can.